My mother always told me that what truly matters is what's on the inside. My mother was wrong. Despite the fact that we want our exterior and our interior to be separate, to have this true, unchanging core that we have complete control over, the fact is that in reality, we are much more like Russian dolls. There is no in or out, but rather layers that are in constant communication with each other to negotiate our identity. Take, for instance, clothes. We normally disregard them as superficial, but how many times were we feeling down and staying in, and putting on a nice outfit changed our mood, and suddenly we were excited and we really wanted to go out? Clothes, this thing, rippled through all these layers to communicate with our little tiny matryoshka in the middle, and made us change our mood and outlook. And in response, this little matryoshka spoke back and said, let's make things that reflect this new outlook, like a fun little picture to commemorate. Our identity is this constant exchange, hence why we say that we make things and things make us. It doesn't make us dumb or superficial, but human. And besides, who wouldn't want to be a Russian doll? I mean, look how cute they are. So, things affect us. But what even are things? And how would they affect us? Surely we would notice. The answer is that all things are designed. And the first thing that we learn in design is that good design is invisible. Take, for instance, Norman doors. Doors that have a handle or a lever on them, we instinctively go to pull. And doors without, we instinctively go to push. Therefore, you could make the biggest sign saying push on a door. If it has a handle, we will still pull and insist and look ridiculous because it's what makes sense to us. Design has integrated itself into our way of interacting with the world, and it only becomes apparent when it stops working. The door speaks to us beyond words, hence why we say that design is the language of power. The problem with this is that the majority of us, despite its influence, have no idea about this language. I mean, look around. What are these things? How are they even made? We have no clue, and less clue still how they affect us. Therefore, today I propose that we unpack the thing that is our built environment, and more specifically, analyze how the tool of beauty is used to make our built environments, and how our built environments then make us. So, let's start at the very beginning. We are complex creatures with very simple needs. Our anthropology professor explained that our brains are still hardwired to be in the savannah plains thousands of years ago, fighting for our survival and reproduction. Therefore, we are attracted to things that will fulfill these needs for survival and reproduction, and repelled by those things that will endanger it. We pursue or avoid things based on needs that vitally determine our physical and mental health. Design understands all of this and offers a range of tools that address these needs in their own specific way. Today, I wanted to look at beauty as a tool and how it addresses the simple visual and social needs that we have. So, to start with the visual, elements like arches, water, fresh greenery, colors, symmetry are things that make us attracted to them because instinctively we know that these places are full of life and that they will therefore guarantee higher survival, higher reproduction, etc. The Plaza de España in Sevilla embraces all of these elements, and in turn, literally and figuratively, embraces all that visit it. Despite being constructed almost 100 years ago, it still remains as one of the most visited and loved places, not only in Sevilla, but in Spain in general. Studies confirm this because, for example, when analyzing the key drivers of city connection, beauty, aesthetic appeal, ranked third, above education, safety, and basic services. Furthermore, this doesn't only talk about connection, but also our literal health, because studies show that hospitals with a beautiful view have their patients recovering faster and enduring higher pain than those that had an ugly view of a brick wall. Nature-inclusive spaces reduce our stress levels. They make us have better sleeping patterns and overall make us less depressed, even just having the chance to walk around in them. Therefore, beauty is an objective tool that we add to things to ensure attraction, and they make us feel good because they satisfy our needs. And in turn, we are more connected to these places, we take care of these places, we visit them, and just overall feel good and healthy with ourselves. For our social needs, we are community-driven creatures. We need the herd to survive, to manage resources more efficiently, to find our mate. And historically, this need for community has always been met by our third spaces. Sociologist Ray Olden explains that our first space is our home, our second space is our workspace, and the third space is our community building place. So third spaces are accessible to everyone, they are cheap, informal, and inclusive. Growing up, think of your third spaces. Normally, as children, it starts off as parks and fields, and as we grow, it turns more into cafes or bars. If you're Spanish, maybe you even thought of a plaza. This is my abueli's favorite plaza growing up, Plaza Duque in Sevilla. There was abundant greenery, places for leisure, cafes, and two beautiful palaces for social events that unite the neighborhood. This is the same plaza now. The only thing that remains is a tiny little island with a few trees scattered on top of it, surrounded by a sea of noisy traffic, and all the cafes and palaces have been completely demolished, standing in their place a giant supermall. I bring this up not just because I love my abueli, but because this brings us to the main issue I wanted to talk about, which is the sheer ugliness of our modern environments. You can visit this next door. And although it looks like a supervillain lair, it is a hospital, and it is the standard for hospitals all around. But don't worry, they clearly listened to the research of beauty and health because, look, they scattered a few little trees there, so I'm sure the patients are so grateful. Modernism is an acquired taste. It is not beautiful and therefore not conducive to life and not human. We justify it because of notions and myths such as that beauty is subjective and therefore doesn't matter, or that functionality and aesthetics are completely opposed. There's also the ego drive of proving that we are above nature, that we dominate nature, and that the best architects are the ones that build the most complex, shiny structures, essentially. How many places do we know of that look like this? I mean, this picture was taken in Madrid, but it could be anywhere. Modernism defends that one size fits all, that we are the same person in the same places, same identity, and same collective culture. Furthermore, these spaces are already the majority being abandoned and vandalized less than 20 years after they're being constructed. Therefore, beauty, although seen as opposed to functionality, actually ensures longevity and usage of it because we will take care of the spaces that we love and feel attracted to. We never truly organize ourselves against this whole ordeal because, first of all, we don't understand it. And second of all, third spaces are eradicated from modernistic jail-like complexes. I mean, how are we supposed to rally against injustice if we don't trust our neighbor, if we don't even know them? How are we supposed to achieve mass action? We simply can't. Beauty in design is like a siren song. It attracts us to certain things, and sometimes it can lead us to a fantastic treasure, but most often than not, it leads us crashing against the rocks. What I mean by this is take the example of our digital environment. Since our public spaces are designed to keep the public out, we want to constantly escape from them and fulfill our needs this whole however we can. Our digital environments, our social medias, the video games, they use beautiful social and visual design. Take the colors, the symmetry, the water-like texture of the screen, the notifications that say that we have friends. They pretend to fill this hole. But our primitive brains know that we aren't actually in these spaces, that we are just looking at them through a fake window. Therefore, we experience constant pleasure in the pursuit of beauty and constant dissatisfaction because the goodness that we're promised to feel when we get to the end never actually comes. This is a problem because older folks complain that why do the young people not go outside anymore? Why are we addicted? Why are we so socially depressed? And this is the environment that they've built for us. They've made the good ugly, or just not at all, and the bad beautiful. An example that encapsulates this entire talk is one that you can actually visit for yourselves in Sol. And essentially, in our modern environments, we've started placing metal spikes where we want to prevent homeless people from resting or sleeping in public. Although many remain, there's been justified backlash to remove them because, evidently, homelessness shouldn't be solved with metal spikes. So the response was, you're right, totally right. We'll solve it with metal balls. It says the exact same thing in a slightly different font so that it becomes invisible again. This is what I mean with design is the language of power, and why I urgently stress that we need to design not just beautifully, but compassionately. We need to use beauty as a tool to ensure goodness, to design with humanity so that humanity can be reflected back to us. So, a quick little recap before the final punch, because this was a lot, is that we are Russian dolls, our outside matters, design is the language of power, we are complex beings with simple needs, we need to stop making the good ugly and the bad beautiful, and that we are a reflection of our surroundings, and our surroundings are a reflection of us. Understanding how the power in our built environment works renders what was initially invisible to be transparent. Its intentions and effects become painfully clear. And it is important that we understand how things are speaking to us so that we can speak back, so that we can respond and use our voices to make and demand the design that we all need and the design that we all deserve. Thank you.